Our last speaker here is, well, she hasn't come quite that far. She's from Atlanta, and her name is Diane Mathewitz, and she is the coordinator of the International Action Center. She also produces her own weekly radio program. It's called the Labor Forum. Diane Mathewitz.
Thank you. Like all the other panelists, I do want to thank the organizers of this incredible conference. I also want to thank you, the audience, for staying and for listening so attentively. And for many of the people here in the US, much of this information was new. And so I particularly applaud those of us who are active in the peace and justice community here in Atlanta for your presence. So I'm going to refer to my written talk so that I do not stray over my 5 minutes. So as a representative of the International Action Center, an organization founded in 1991 by former Attorney General Ramsey Clark and by many other anti-imperialist activists following the first Gulf War, I do extend my greetings of solidarity to all present here. The IAC was created to be a consistent voice here in what we call the belly of the beast, to educate and take action against the hegemonic goal of the US political establishment and the capitalist power structure it serves to control and dominate the world's resources and labor for the profit of a few. We are unapologetic supporters of the right of the oppressed and exploited wherever to not only resist their conditions, but to fashion their own path to liberation against any schemes or manipulation of events by the United States. We here know well how racism and national chauvinism and other forms of discrimination and bigotry are used to divide the people, leading them to act against their own interests. For many people in this country, the massacre at Rabat, the intense repression against so many sectors of the Egyptian population, whether labor unions, youth and students, women, and most particularly members of the Muslim Brotherhood, and the formidable financial and political support given to the military coup, but not just this coup, all the right-wing and fascist forces globally. This given by the United States, so that the rhetoric about the US as defender of democracy worldwide, these truths about US foreign policy are purposefully hidden or obscured. I want to say that in this struggle, it is important that we foster no illusions about what drives US policy abroad and here at home. But I do see these blinders being ripped away when the images of a military occupation in Ferguson, Missouri, following a brutal police murder of a young black man, fill the screens, or reports of thousands in Detroit marching for access to water in the richest country in the world, or protests of low-wage workers in the fast food and retail industries bringing their demands for a living wage to the streets all across the country. So I ask you, do the tear-gas-filled streets of Ferguson look like Gaza, look like Cairo, or look like Donetsk, Ukraine at this very moment, where US-supplied weapons, planes, artillery, assault rifles, and bullets keep the status quo in place, all in an attempt to suppress the aspirations of people for justice and a real voice in their society. We call that self-determination. The International Action Center very purposefully attempts to connect all the struggles globally to a common enemy, the rapacious economic system which emanates from Wall Street, with its web of multinational banks and corporations, international institutions like the IMF, or military alliances such as NATO, that with the unlimited capacity of the Pentagon to destroy the planet, threaten all of us all the time. The U.S. government, whether led by Republicans or Democrats, in service to the oil and mining companies, we can name them: United Fruit, Coca-Cola, AT&T, and all the multiple members of the military-industrial complex. They have committed horrific acts of mass murder, from the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, to backing the Indonesian military coup, which saw 1 million killed, to the overthrow of Pinochet in Chile, or as we're here today, to talk about the decades-long military rule in Egypt and the Israeli occupation of Palestine. But today, the resistance to oppression and exploitation is everywhere, as the needs of billions cannot be met by a system that places profit over people and rules by armed might and terror. The key to winning is a resolute, conscious people, of course, who are willing to fight back. But what we need most now is international solidarity, where we see others' struggles as our own. So I just want to take a brief second away from what I wrote, because I want to mention the people of Gaza sending messages to the people of Ferguson, and knowing that the same tear gas canisters that were assaulting them in Gaza, made by the company, I believe in Minnesota, were the ones that were being used in Ferguson. And what did just these tweets and these messages from Gaza produce in this majority black suburb of St. Louis? It responded with the people taking up this chant: from Gaza to Ferguson, end the occupation now. Now, no one can be in every demonstration for justice, belong to every coalition for human rights, though I have to say, in the IAC, we do try. But all of us can show up, whether by signing an online petition, writing a letter to an elected official, giving an endorsement, contributing resources, sending out information, broadening your own political agenda, adding speakers from other movements to our meetings and events, coming to a demonstration, boycotting Israeli products, joining an organization, and most of all, by always, always educating ourselves to the struggle taking place on every continent. I know that each of us here wants to win. We want to make change that establishes human rights and true democracy for everyone. To me, that means we unite the struggle against mass incarceration in the US with the imprisoned thousands in Egypt and the Palestinians detained without charges. We recognize the Egyptian families eking out a living out of garbage dumps, and the homeless men living under bridges in Atlanta as worthy of our active solidarity. We support Egyptian trade unionists in textile mills and at the ports, opposing poverty wages and dangerous working conditions, defying a ban on their own self-organization, by standing with low-wage workers here in the fight to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. We need to share our lessons. We need to savor and celebrate each other's victories as our own. And most importantly, we need to be confident that our goals of a worldwide liberation from hunger, from repression, and from violence will prevail. I say to you, we can win, we can do it now. Thank you.